Hello and welcome to another video. So welcome back. This is going to be my second Effects House tutorial. This one will be a bit more in depth and we'll cover off finally something to do about nodes, which is, for those who are familiar with Spark AR, the patch editor, for example, but it's the node editor. Right on, so let's have a quick look at what we're going to be building so you're aware of the steps that we'll have. So I'll just show you the previous filter it's based on. So I did this a few months ago. Very simple, yeah. So it's got an open mouth functionality, shows you a message, hits you in the face, and then shows a different state, and then shows a different message. Now I should be completely clear on this. I based this tutorial, or this demo I created a number of months ago, on a demo that was done by the Discord community, one of the builders. They made a demo called Bonk. It was a live demo, so during the Discord we got to go through this tutorial with the creator. It was a fantastic tutorial. It really did give me a great insight into the node editor, and I think that for me was like the breaking of the camel's back. I finally worked out or understood the node editor in a better way, so hopefully I can distill the same for you guys. I would say that this tutorial, the previous tutorial that was done, which is Bonk, some of the nodes don't exist any longer because it was done in an earlier version of Effects House, something like 0.08 or something like that, so it's a rather old version. So if you do follow the tutorial, be aware that some of the nodes that you'll be using don't exist. So hence why I've kind of done my version, which is a bit more up to date, and also I've added some extra elements to mine. Okay, so let's get on with it. Right, so I'm going to be using version 1 of Effects House. Now, since I did this tutorial, there is another version of Effects House out. So one really important thing to keep in mind is that at this moment in time, as far as I know it, and as far as I've seen it, you can't backwards, you're not backwards compatible. So if you make an effect, let's say or forwards compatible, so I think if you make an effect in version 1, but you get the latest version of 1.01, you won't be able to open the previous project you've made in version 1. They're just not doing it yet. So anything you do previously, you would need to retain the installer. So what I would recommend doing, any installers you do download over the coming months, and I guess this is just while we're in the beginning of Effects House, just make sure you keep a copy of them so that if you do have previous projects you want to go back to, you do have the previous installers just to reboot. So just something to keep note of. Anyway, let's get on with it. So I'm going to create a new project. Tidy this up. Select the right camera. Hello. Okay, so let's get into this. I'll make the canvas a bit bigger, or the IDE a bit bigger. Stick myself floating. So we're going to make sure we've got a nice big node space for you, for us, so we can see what's going on. Also, when I do the edit, I'll make sure I try and zoom in on this area so that if any of you are following on your phones, you will see it in closer depths. Okay, so don't worry too much if you aren't able to see it right at this moment in time. Also, for this demo, I will be providing the project files, so you will be able to download them from my GitHub. Again, it should be noted that I can't provide the project as a whole, the build, because it's technically locked to my user. You can't seem to move it around yet because I had 2 user accounts running at one point, and I just couldn't transfer things around. So you have to basically almost delete everything on your computer that is related to that previous login and then relog back in again. Okay, so that's where you'll only be able to get the assets and not the actual build. Anyway, I digress a bit. So over to the left hand side, first of all, we're going to add the objects we need. So add assets, import from computer. These are on my desktop. I'm going to select them. So I'll pull in the images I need, which are these. Okay, and then I'm also going to import my image sequence of the fish. Now that's under import and it's a texture sequence. I'll do that as a separate import. So here we go. I've got 1 to 7, so I'll just select 1 to 7. Now they've been converted into a sequence. There you are, you can see it playing on the right hand side there. I'm just going to give it a better name. Fish slap S. That's all right. Okay, so I've got copy 1, copy 2, and then I've got my fish sequence, and then I've got a hit marker. So the next thing we want to do is we want to add them to the stage, or in this case add them to the environment. So I'm just going to do that next. So on the left hand side under the hierarchy, I'm going to add object, 2D, and then I'm going to add an image. Now the great thing when you do that, it adds a canvas for you, so you don't need to go and do that yourself. Okay, so the next thing I'll do is I'm just going to rename this one to copy 1, and then on the right hand side with copy 1 selected, I'm going to select the texture, and I'm going to open the option for changing that. Now it does get a little bit slow here, so every time you try and do things like import or selects, you'll notice that I kind of froze there, so be patient with the software, it is all there. Okay, so I'm just going to select copy 1, hit OK, that's appeared on the screen now. I'm now going to go back over to the left hand side. I'm just going to right click. Oh, I'm both using a pen and a mouse at this point, so there might be moments where things jump around, so apologies. Okay, so on the right hand side, on the left hand side, I'm just going to add another object under 2D, going to hit image, there we go, and I'm just going to call it copy 2. Then on the right hand side, I'm sure you can guess, I'm just going to select copy 2 from the inspector. Okay, there you go, got copy 2 selected. Now also I need to add in my hit image, so again I'm going to add an image, so I'm going to hit marker, I think I'll call it. Hit marker, and then on the right hand side, you guessed it, I'm going to select the hit marker. Okay, so now I've got all my images I need onto the scene. Now let's just pull this down a bit so you can see. So I can now position things where I need them, I can scale them up, and I can rotate them. Some of it is precise as it could be, but that's okay. Text, I'm going to put I warned you there, and I'll put up there. Now you could lock these to the head if you wanted. I'm just going to keep them static on the screen because this tutorial is more about the node editor, not necessarily where I'm positioning things on the screen. So you guys could do what you wanted. Anyway, I digress. So let's get back into it. Okay, so obviously the important thing we need is the fish lab. So we'll get that imported next. So again, on the left hand side, I'm going to select and add an image. And then on the right hand side, you guessed it, I'm going to select the fish lab. But no, I'm not going to do that because that's what you would normally do, right? Because it's just an image, but it isn't. It's an image sequence. So actually what you need to do is go to the bottom right hand corner under add component, right to the bottom. And then under animation, you do animation sequence. Now it'll give you the default, which you can see is an Effects House logo animating. So in this case, I'm going to change that, and I'm going to select Fish Lab. And there you go, there's the Fish Lab. Now, first things to do is you can obviously change the frames per second. I'm going to keep it at 12 frames per second. You could update it to 25 frames per second, but that's a bit fast and a bit insane. So I'm going to keep it at a nice, slow, steady pace. I'll have it on autoplay. First of all, though, I'm just going to adjust it. I want it pretty big on the scene when it animates, so let's just crank it up. Now again, you could lock this to the face or track it with the head, but I'm not going to do that. In the original Bonk tutorials, you did actually do that, so have a look at it. It's really cool. Right, I'm going to tick off autoplay because that is annoying and it's slightly distracting. So, quickly recap. We've added now all our objects that we need to the scene. We've got a copy 1, copy 2, and we've got the hit marker, and we've got the fish lab. There's one thing left to do. It's once I've been hit with the fish slap, I need a reaction. So what's going to happen to my face? Now, the original one I did it with, I'll just show you here, on the left-hand side, add object. You've got face effect. I did the original, which was stretch. So stretch is really cool. So I'll just quickly show you, which you might have seen in the previous tutorial. So if you haven't watched the previous tutorial yet, I highly recommend you check it out. It's just above right now. So if you click it now, you could go and watch that and just run through how this this sort of face stretch works. It's actually very simple. You just pull things across and it will distort your face. And you've got intensity, you can increase it, which is great. but but in this case, I'm not going to use face stretch. I'm going to use something different this time because I thought, why not? Let's just use something completely different. So I'm just going to delete that from the scene. Sorry, the hierarchy. So back on the left hand side under add object, I'm now going to go back to face effect, and this time I'm going to choose face liquefy. Okay, like a fisheye lens, isn't it? Right, so what I'm going to do, have it selected on the left hand side, back over to the right hand side under the inspector. Let's just move this across a little bit. Okay, so you've got the radius control, so you can increase the radius, but it goes to a square. Well, I'm not going to worry about that too much. I don't think I want to do a fish thing because it's not the fisheye lens. You can change which angle it's on, so if you adjust these, so not angle, axes, so X or Y, you can adjust it like that. Hey. What I'm going to do actually is I'm going to specify an area. So in this case, I'm going to specify up. And then I think I'm going to increase the Y down. I will increase the radius. So there you go. It's a bit more of a funny one. I think it would probably work quite well if you had an anvil falling ahead instead of getting a bit of a fish slap. Obviously the space, the radius is a bit odd because obviously there's a bit of my head still in shot at the top. So I would hope maybe in future versions they'll get rid of that. But anyway, it's a bit of fun, a bit of silliness. So we'll leave it in. So that's what we want, right? That's what's going to happen to my face. It's going to get squished. So we now have all the elements we need ready. So now we're going to move on to the setup. So the setup, what do I mean by that? Well, that's going to be getting all the nodes we need on the scene. We're going to set them up to be the preset. What do they look like before the effect starts? Okay, so this is just for the first time it ever runs. You won't use this sequence again, but you will duplicate it to reuse it from a code perspective. Right, so we'll just go down here. So from start, I'm going to pull out a node and I'm going to look for something called sequence. Sequences is really, really cool. They shared this with us a couple of months ago. It allows you to run things in a sequence. So I'm going to select, first of all, I want to have set visibility. So all of these objects, I need to control the objects, sorry, all the items in the hierarchy, I need to control their visibility. And that is going to be the theme with a lot of what we're going to do right now. It's setting the visibility of when something should play and when something shouldn't play. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go through all the objects, all the assets we have, the imagery, and we're going to set their scene setup, okay? So I've got liquefy already selected. So on the right hand side, top right hand side, you've got a little plus icon. Select that, get liquefy. Okay, and I want that set value to be, in this case, false, so 0. One thing interesting about nodes is I realized when I watched that original Bonk tutorial was that when a lot of stuff we're very used to is sort of left to right and then your result is over on the right hand side, it's not necessarily the way with nodes. It's more sort of, it goes to the right and then backs to the left, but not backs to the left, it inputs from the left as well. So your actual end result is still on the right, but you might have many more elements coming in from the left. So for example, I'm going to pull the liquefy into the object, right, and I'm going to set the value to, there you go, so it's not visible yet. So I need to repeat that. So I'm going to copy and paste the set a few times. Okay, so that was liquefy. I'm now going to do copy. Again, with copy selected on the left hand side, top right hand side, undo inspector, hit that little plus icon, get copy. Copy to, same again, right hand side, hit the plus icon, tap it. Sorry, now if this isn't clear, this is basically like the visible false. So is it visible, is it not visible? Now I seem to have an extra, oh yeah, let's just rename that. I didn't rename the fish slap. Okay, so we now have all the items we need. Now I don't need to control the visibility of fish slap because fish slap is actually a sequence. So it will play when I tell it to play based on what happens. So we don't need to worry about that. We only need to worry about the other elements you currently see on the scene. So we've currently set liquefy to a value of false, or 0. We're now going to set the other values. Now I want the first message, copy 1, to always be there at the beginning, because it's the message to basically say don't do something. Okay, so its value should be true. So I will set that to that object, and then from the sequencer after it starts, I'm going to pull that down and drag it into the set visibility. So, didn't do it. So there you go, it's always on. Right, but the next one is copy 2. Now copy 2 shouldn't activate until I've been hit in the face by a fish. So what we'll do is we'll set that value to false. So go down here, and I'm going to pull that object 2 in, and the value, there you go, it's reset itself and removed it. And finally we've got the hit marker, which you can see on the scene right now. I'm going to also set that to the same value as the copy 2. So there you go. So our scene is now set up. Nothing's going to happen, nothing activates, the fish is not going to play, and the copy's not going to change. So what we'll do now is we'll move on to the animation sequence of getting the fish to play. Okay, so we're just going to move further down. I'm just going to select all of these. I'm going to hit copy on that, we'll need that for later. So I'm going to scroll down. So we're going to start a new sequence, or a new sort of set of nodes, okay? So this is like the part 2 bit. Okay, so right click, add a node, and we want to type in animation. Now we want animation sequence control, not a 3D controller. So animation sequence control. Why do we want animation sequence control? Well, it has the ability to run through a sprite sheet essentially, or it can run through a animation sequence. It can run through steps. It's got frame control, so we can tell it to do things at certain points. Excuse me, need some coffee, hold on. Coffee. Right, moving on. So we've got our animation sequence controller, basically. That's the thing that's basically going to reactivate everything. But we need to pass through the fish lab. We need to get the fish lab to play. So what we do on the left hand side with fish lab selected, just so I can get it to come up in the inspector on the right hand side, I'm going to go over to the animation sequence, and I'm going to tap on the plus icon, right, and I'm going to get animation sequence. That then adds a node to the scene, as you can see, and I know that I'm going to pass it into component, right, so I've got frame, it starts on frame 1 and I want it to end on frame 7, so there you go, and it'll loop once, that's it, and I want it to stop on the last one. Brilliant. The other thing is we need to activate this sequence. So next I'm going to type in, we're going to activate this. Now the original one that was done by the Discord team was done on tap screen. We're going to try something different, which is obviously we're going to use a facial expression is what they call it. So you want to type in facial, and then you want to look for expression. Oh, not expression detection, sorry, not expression, it is movement detection. Expression would be happy or sad, but we just want movement. So in this case, which is quite nice. It's nice that it sort of wraps it up in one sort of nice node for you, and then you can just select what you need. Okay, so we just want open mouth. Now I'm not going to pull that in just yet, I'm going to leave that for a moment so we can just set things up and then connect it up so it runs. So move across a little bit, give yourself a bit of space. Right. Let's see if this pastes in. Cool. Okay, so I copied the nodes from earlier. So these are the ones we need. So we're going to change these states now because the fish will play when I open my mouth, and then I want to change the liquefy animation from not being visible to visible. I want to remove copy 1, I want to show copy 2, and I want to show the hit icon. So I'm going to set the value now, so that would indicate, as I just said, so the liquefy will be set to a plus, so I'm sorry, a tick of 1, so 0 or 1, so in this case it's 1. I want copy 1 to be 0, so I'll tick that off. I want copy 2 to be on, and I want the hit marker to be on. Okay, so nothing's going to happen, they're not going to appear because nothing's been passed through to make them play. Okay, so that's set there. Right, so the next thing to do would be to get them to play. So I'm going to pull from the right hand side of the animation scene controller, and let go, and it's going to bring up the sort of the node search. So I'll just type in sequence again, which we used previously on the setup. Right, and then I'm going to drag these all in to where I need them. So I'll just pull these down quickly. So that now controls that scene. Now let's do a quick test. Right, so we now want to connect. We're going to connect the face, the mouth open to the play sequence controller, and hopefully everything will work. Didn't work. Let's try that again. Okay, so I made a mistake. It happens. So I should have connected the component to the sequencer. And then if I hit play and drag that in, there you go, it works. Yeah, I had it set for play here, so that wasn't going to execute correctly. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take off the... Yeah, so I had that slightly messed up. Sorry about that, guys. So within the animation sequence control, I should have it running directly parallel to the component, and that would have activated it straight away. All right, so we'll move on. So that did kind of work, but even when it activates and your face is squished, how do you then reset it? And that's that clever bit we need to get resolved. So how do we do that? Okay, so to do that, we're gonna set a timer. So I can imagine what you think it was called. Yeah, it's wait. Of course it's called wait. So I'll tap that and I'll set something like 2 seconds. Then I need to reset everything. So obviously, well, that means I have to repeat everything I've already done. Well, there is actually a little way around that. So there's something they showed us in that rather cool tutorial, the Bonk tutorial. What you do is you select all the nodes you want to create into like a subgroup. So you'd select them all, right click, and then you create a subgraph. That turns it into this little compact. It's a bit like doing groups on other platforms. So then you have more systems, you can compile them together and you can do inputs and outputs, which is really handy. So that's that one. So I'm just going to double tap on it and I'm just going to give it a name of setup. Now, admittedly, setup will never be used again because it's only there from when it starts. You won't use it again because what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate the setup to be the reset. So I'm just going to select it, copy and paste it. There we go. And then I'm just going to move across, down. After wait a second, I'm going to drag it into wait a second. So rename it. Reset. Okay. So it should all work now. So fingers crossed I haven't made any other mistakes. There you go, it worked. So it's a bit difficult doing this one because you have to keep talking and it'll detect my mouth open. So just to recap, what we've done is we set it up with where we basically gave every object, every image, we gave it a sort of starting state of the visibility. Remember, it's all about that set visibility we're basically controlling. So that was in the first setup part of the group. First setup part of the tutorial. Then the second part was to basically reverse that set visibility. So we pass through an animation of that animation sequence of the fish. And then what we did is we then said that everything had been set up at the beginning. We then said, right, we're just going to change the visibility again. So we're just going to change the visibility. And then after a couple of seconds, we want you to reset that visibility back to what we'd already used at the start, because we can't reuse the start because the start's already been used. That sounds confusing, I know. But anyway, that is the tutorial. That is how simple it is. And for me, as I said at the beginning, I felt that this, when I was doing this and when I watched the original Bonk one, it really helped me understand nodes better and how to use them in the right way. Okay, well that's it. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial today. I've really enjoyed making it. I do appreciate all those who have subscribed. I've had 20 subscribers since the last video. That is phenomenal. So thank you very much for all those who have subscribed. It does make a huge difference. If you'd like to obviously watch that previous video, it's here on the left. And if you'd like to also watch my playing around with VR, which is on the right hand side, I'd really much appreciate it. All right, guys, have a lovely afternoon.